What is up, you filthy millennials? I'm the Cynical American, and today I'm going to bring you a Magic the Gathering deck tech on a standard deck that I've been testing for the last little while. It's the deck that I plan on playing at FNM tomorrow night, and it is Mono Red Madness, because 90% of my meta is Saheeli, and this deck is basically built to beat the Saheeli decks. I still have Aristocrats, or give me a second here. It's right here. It's in my little deck box. It's no, I'm still gonna play the deck. This is my updated deck. I'm still working on it, but the deck just struggles too much with control right now. The problem is that back in previous standards we had cards like Evolutionary Leap, and we just had great card advantage. Enchantments in green and black that were able to be played early against control and keep you stabilized and give you cards into the mid to late game so that you can grind with them. We don't really have that anymore. There's cards like Tireless Tracker and Verdurous Gearhulk, but that's money that I don't have. It's money I'm not going to put into that deck. It's just a $30 fun deck that I'll play on occasion, more than likely, because this is the deck that I put my money into. But anyway, that's not what this is about. This is the deck tech for Mono Red Madness, so I'm going to give you the deck tech. 7 Mountains by Noah Bradley. Who's this guy? I don't know. 6 Mountains by some dude. 4 Mountains by another dude. And then 3 Mountains by... 10 Mountains and Noah Bradley, I guess. 20 basic mountains, and then 2 Looming Spires. Looming Spires is just here to push through a little bit of extra damage instead of being 2 basic mountains. 22 land. That's it. They would be full arts, but I'm poor, so... For creatures, 4 copies of Bomat Courier. This is what you want. This is generally your first turn play, and at the end of the deck tech, I'm going to show you a turn 4 kill involving this card. This card is amazing. This card is what lets you keep up with control. If they want to waste a shock on it, that is fine. I don't care. It's either I'm going to sack it in response and get some cards, or it's turn 1. And by the way, after this dies, you still can't look at the face down cards until the end of the game, which is sad. But you know what? Whatever. 4 copies of Insolent Neonate. This is one of those reach cards. It's one of those cards that no one thinks is important until they actually read the card and they're like, holy shit, I can't deal with this. Menace is actually really good right now, considering we're in a format with like Scrap Heat Scoundrel and Winding Constrictor. You know, decks are only leaving 1 blocker back. So when you just play a Menace guy and you hit them, there's like, oh, that's really annoying. And this thing triggers Madness, so you gotta play 4 of it. That's it for 1 drop, so on to 2 drops. 4 Fury Blade Vampire. This is like the best card in the deck. It's a 1/2 for 1 in red. And then it has Trample. In the beginning of your upkeep, you can pitch a card, or you can discard a card from your hand, and if you do, it gets +3/+0. So normally what I like to do is I can discard Avacyn's Judgment to it and hit them for a bunch of damage, but I'll talk about that later. But usually on turn 3, if you have this and Incorrigible Use, that's 8 damage. Literally on turn 3, that's just 8 damage. So you're basically forcing them to have a removal spell, because that is 20% of their, or that's, hold on, I gotta do math here. Why can I not do math right now? It's 40% of their life total, so they have to do something about that. So 4 Fury Blade. 4 Blood Mad Vampire. This is a 2 and a red 4/1. Whenever it hits a player, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and it has Madness for 2. So this is the thing I like to do on turn 2 with like my Bomat Courier if it's gonna die. If my hand is like land flooded, I can just put this into play and hit them. This card gets out of control really fast, just like Fury Blade Vampire does, so it doesn't need to die. Even if it only gets 1 counter on it before it dies, it's done its job, and it's one of the first cards you side out. 2 Stromkirk Occultist. This is like an Abbot of Carol Keep. This is a 3-mana 3/2 with Madness 1 and a red like Blood Mad, except when this hits a player, you exile the top card of your deck, and you can play it until end of turn, so that includes land, which is really cool. Nothing really to it. It's like, this is something I like to put at the end of my opponent's turn with like a Neonate. I'll play Neonate turn 1, turn 2, attack with it, end step, play Occultist, and then have some card advantage going. That's really nice. 2 copies of PNLR. I have a love-hate relationship with this card in this deck. I wanted an extra win condition, and the Thopter this makes can just hit them. But it doesn't do anything when you discard it, and it can clog your hand sometimes. This is like the first card I side out, but I would cut those for Incendiary Flows if I had them. And then 4 Incorrigible Use. This is like the most combo-licious card in the entire deck. If you go like just turn 1 Neonate, turn 2 Fury Blade, turn 3 this, that's 9 damage. So I mean, it just requires your opponent to have the answer. That's it for creatures. For instance, 2 Shock, 2 Lightning Axe. This is just removal. This interacts with the Saheeli matchup, which is really good. And this can just kill like snakes and Rishkars after they put counters on them. It doesn't kill Torrential Gearhook. This is annoying. But if you pair it up with Fiery Temper, you spend 2 mana to kill Gearhole. And if they counter one of the spells, they counter one of the spells. You don't really care. But this is really reach. It's Lightning Bolt. 95% of the time in this deck, it's literally just a Lightning Bolt. And then Avacyn's Judgment acts as 8 more copies, but I'll get into that in a minute. Fiery Temper is just a great card for this deck. If you're playing any sort of mana strategy, you need 4 copies of Fiery Temper. And then 4 copies of Avacyn's Judgment. This card is so good. Oh my god, this card. It's usually 2 mana for 2 damage divided as you choose. But if you Madness it, it becomes Madness X. So in the late game, this is the card that you want to draw. So that if you have a Courier out, if you have a Neonate out, you can just sack it. This is what I do at the end of my opponent's turn. On like turn 4, if they're not dead, I attack with my Neonate, I leave up my mana, they pass, they try to play around burn, and then they just get Judgmented and they lose. So then the last card in the main deck, 2 copies of Skin Invasion. It enchants a creature, and that has to attack a Fable. But when the creature dies, this transforms into a 3/4. So what I like to do is I like to put this on my Neonate, so I can essentially have a 1 mana 3/4 whenever I want, as long as I have a card in my hand to discard. So that does it for the main deck, 60 cards. Moving on to the sideboard. The sideboard is 2 copies of Ruinous Gremlin because I don't have Release the Gremlins. You want 2 copies of some artifact hate card, or you could make these like Key to the Cities if you wanted to. 2 copies of Sin Prodder for some card advantage. And also the menace on this thing is really nice, so. And then Firebird. I like this against control, because you can discard it. And then once you're at 6 mana, then you just start bringing it back. 2 more copies of Shock for the low to the ground decks, and for Saheeli. 2 copies of Magmatic Chasm for like the black-green decks that want to fill the ground up. 1 Destructive Tampering to either kill an artifact, or to have a 3rd Magmatic Chasm. The card I like against control is 3 copies of Hijack. Just being able to take their Torrential Gearhook is really funny. I thought about putting this in the main board, but I decided against it because it doesn't do anything if you can't discard it. But just being able to take their Gearhulk or to take their blocker and then just hit them is really nice. That's what this is for. Just against like green decks, you like take their blocker and then you just hit them with it. It can also take artifacts too. Crumble to Dust for Shambling Vent because this deck absolutely hates it. And then Implement of Combustion for Saheeli to have more interaction with that matchup. So anyway, guys, that is my Mono Red Madness deck profile in the Aether Revolt Season Standard. This deck is a lot of fun. It's also really cheap. It's like 40 bucks. This is cheaper than my Aristocrats deck. My Aristocrats deck is like 75 bucks. But that's because it has cards in it that you need to play, and I'll talk about that once I make that deck tech. But anyway, leave your thoughts of this deck in the comment section down below. Let me know what cards you guys would play. I'm a Cynical American. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. If I can never find the stop button.